Hey, what's going on, fight fans? Are here for another special episode. Friend of the show, I guess you can say, after you come on for a second time, that is,
Wow.
and it's none other
Rematch.
than fight films guy himself, Mr. Carl Weingarten. Pleasure to have you on here, Carl. How's it been going for you?
Good, good. Pleasure to be here and with the whole 86 boxing crew.
Appreciate it. So, folks, those that will be joining, those that are going to be listening on replay, what I want you to do is make sure you go check out at Fight Films Guy. You see it up there at your top right, because I think you will enjoy a lot of the content that is over on that page. As a matter of fact, we talked about it last time, Carl. A lot of content that you yourself have collected, you put out there for individuals to be able to see there for free here via YouTube, and people even reuse it and all of that stuff there as well, Carl. So you are a true steward of the sport in itself, and hey,
Thank,
we're the boxing history community is better because of you.
thanks, man. Thanks a lot.
Oh yes,
Appreciate it.
yes, yes. No problem at all. So last time you were on, we were kind of going through a lot of the things that you were working your time in the world of collecting film and all of that, Carl. And as a matter of fact, this video or what we're going to be discussing from a video perspective is your latest documentary that you dropped, which addresses Jack Johnson versus Tommy Burns from 1908. So December 26, 1908. That was the world heavyweight title fight between the two that took place in Australia. So it is a very historic fight. And there have been tons of rumblings, misconceptions about the fight in itself, but you seem to sort of solve those and provide the true story behind what is out there from a footage perspective, as well as how the contest went contrary to what is seen on film there, Carl. So, what kind of led you in the direction of doing this documentary here as your latest release?
It just, I got interested in doing this over the years as more and more, I learned more and more about the event and the film and saw evidence, conflicting evidence to the story that has been conveyed from the Big Fights Incorporated 13-minute production. I had read over the years that something about that there was a question as to whether the entire film still existed or if people had it or not. The Ken Burns documentary
Mhm.
included some footage I had never seen before. I mean, that was a while ago, but I mean, I'd been familiar with that film since, since the 70s or 80s. Um, so I knew something was not quite right about the story. I mean, and for a long time, didn't seem to matter because, Johnson won, obviously, and he won pretty big. But I collect films. I love films and watching and studying them. It's like a little bit of time travel. And the more you work with them, the more stuff you see in terms of the fighters are their styles and their abilities, and you see just the people around them and how they're reacting in the situations. I mean, just uh, it's always been fascinating for me to kind of look at all that stuff, and there's a lot of information there, but um, up until up to this point, fight films have been shown just as they are.
Mhm.
Few people have gone in to try and do restoration work and study them closely, um, which has been a lot of fun, learning a lot about those fighters of the era. And the tipping point for this particular fight was I was in contact with an archivist, and we were going to exchange some footage. And he said he had some stuff. He had some footage of Jim Jacobs on a television show that included footage that was never in the Big Fights Incorporated release. And I really
Right.
said, oh, and by the way, the rumor that the cameras uh, or the the story about the police stopping the cameras wasn't true. And there's a clip in there that basically shows where that freeze frame would have been and ended, and the film continued. And I was like, well, okay. And so
Wow.
that was like one big piece of the puzzle that once that kind of fell in place, then all these other possibilities, the whole story started to open up. And I realized then that the more I looked into the film, the more I saw that it was heavily edited. The greatest fights, the big fights film, which is all over YouTube. If you search for if you search for that fight, it's the version you see.
Oh yeah.
Relabeled rounds and included rounds that they didn't have, so that didn't make any sense. Then I found some information from a couple of other archivists and researchers who were they themselves were looking for the whole film, and they had some evidence that the film was in fact the film that survives is incomplete. Then finding an interview with Jim Jacobs himself that counters his story. He made an appearance in 1962 on CBS, and then somewhere in the 80s he did an interview with possibly an Australian television program where he tells a slightly different story and basically says that he only has one reel of the film. The archivist that I've been in touch with confirmed that as far as he knows, there's only one reel of it that exists.
Wow.
I've checked with an Australian archive service, and they pretty much confirming that only 13 minutes exists. So that's about one reel.
Okay.
And it turns out to be rounds 6 through 10. So there was a whole story in there that we have been led to believe that we were watching highlights of the entire fight, rounds 1, 5, 8, 11, and 14, when in fact we were watching pieces of rounds 6 through, in fact, I've been informed actually rounds 6 through 9. They didn't even use the 10th round, or at least not all of it. And sort of shuffle these pieces together. So much of the work that I've been doing with it was taking the footage, the found footage that wasn't released, and going into the footage that I have a print of the Burns Johnson film, having it laser scanned to high resolution, and go into finding all the cuts, where all the breaks are, and it's just it's this giant jigsaw puzzle, and trying to put things in their proper order. I'm still working on that. I have most of it done, but once you put it in order, you see how those middle rounds go, but you don't see the beginning and you don't see the end.
Wow, that's amazing there, Carl. That's so much right there. That is so much in terms of just this whole process and what went down. Just to think about that. To start, I just want to get your thoughts on. I know you mentioned it in your video, which is on his channel, folks, at Fight Films Guy. If you put that in the search bar, at Fight Films Guy, Johnson versus Tommy Burns, 1908. HD documentary, lost footage. You mentioned that this was done for sort of, I guess, entertainment value in some sense by Jim Jacobs. I wonder what your thoughts are. Based on the interviews that you saw of him, did you get the perception that he knew or was thinking about the fact that this would alter things in such a way historically, just leading to where we are now? Because Another thing you know is just the countless amounts of reports, as well as like Ken Burns documentary, a number of others, even out here on YouTube. I even have some stuff that is out there where individuals think that is really the end of the fight right there that we're seeing. Did you get the perception that he knew that that was a possibility, that it would alter things in this way?
Um, yes, I mean it was deliberately manipulated the film to tell the story of the fight in that way. He and Bill Caton were business partners. They were not trying to alter history. I think at the end of the day, they were big promoters of Jack Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
They were trying to tell his story, and in this case, they only had a few rounds of the fight. And as you know, Big Fights Incorporated was a television program series for many years, and both Caton and Jacobs were big collectors of boxing films when few other people were interested, and we have them to thank really for most of any of the footage that we see today before Jack Dempsey. We have to thank them, because most of the historic fight footage you see on YouTube, the vast majority of all that stuff comes from their collection somewhere. And they issued those 12-minute digests, you know, 12, 13-minute shows on television. And those films have been distributed. They've been relicensed into video, used in various documentaries. And since they pretty much they collected the material and they were the owners of it, there were other people didn't get a chance to see any other versions of that film. I mean, if the film had been discovered by somebody else, then they would be able to ask, ask the question about, or question the decision to edit it. But nobody else had a copy of the film, so he had an exclusive. So all the biographers and people who came after just took it as gospel that is what happened. Wow. If you read the newspapers and accounts of the day, you know that it didn't go down the way they say. But nobody was studying it because the film itself was compelling. And they just wanted to sell a product. A few rounds of a fight, even if it's something as historic as, Jack Johnson, they can't really do anything with that. They can't, we're going to have a show and just show a few rounds of it, and people, where's the beginning? Where's the end? Or they would have it in a documentary somewhere, pieces of it. They wanted to really use it to showcase that fight. So they recut it to make it seem like that was the narrative of the entire fight. I don't think that first of all, they were just doing it they were trying to make a living. They were doing it to make money and to promote their business and promote Jack Johnson. I don't think they thought about history per se all that much. Nowadays, the values are different in how we look at history. We want to look at history with a more genuine perspective, if we can. That's kind of I think a goal.
Yes.
Of looking at history and re-looking at it from different points of view. That's become very important to, I think, in our culture, to do that. Back in those days, if you just see the footage, that alone was enough. Because people, there had been decades since anybody had seen Jack Johnson in action. So it was exciting at that time for that to happen. So basically, they did the edit, just for the sake that they needed to have a complete production that they could sell. And ever since that time, various biographers and documentary filmmakers have just accessed that and referenced that as the gospel of what happened. And I mean, if Jacobs, he passed away in the late 80s, if he'd lived longer or whatever, maybe it would be different. I think, the truth of it is just as interesting as any story you could make up. You
Yeah,
know?
yes.
But I understand why they did that, and I don't criticize them for it. It was their material, and they chose to do it. And now, we have an opportunity to kind of at least, you know, change, writing the story and bring some truth to what happened, and then people can argue about that.
All right, yes, folks, we're here with at Fight Films Guy here on YouTube, at Fight Films Guy. So be sure to go check out his channel. While you're here, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't. Do the same there for Carl at Fight Films Guy. Yes, you're right. That story is just as much compelling there, Carl. Just what went on surrounding this film specifically. Now, this is kind of touching on something that you did mention in the previous interview you did on the channel there, Carl. But I'm thinking about the process for Jim Jacobs and such to sort of find these films. I'd imagine that had to have been pretty daunting. You thinking about like pre Jack Dempsey stuff, because I remember you sharing that, even with theaters and things of that nature at the time, there were films of classic boxing matches that they would record over, just because they, I guess, weren't thinking that far ahead, and of course the expense associated with them. So, and you being a fight film collector yourself, there, Carl, like that process in itself, I'd imagine it's satisfying at the top end at the reveal and when you actually get something. But going through the process, what is that like, Carl, for an individual trying to find these old films?
Um, I remember when I first met Steve Lott, who
Hmm.
he took over the Big Fights Incorporated business after Caton and Jacobs passed away, and we were talking about collecting and finding something new, and he said there was no thrill, for at least for him, as to unspooling some found footage that hadn't been seen for decades, and he hadn't seen it, and it was brand new to him. And that's always fun. It doesn't happen very often. So much has been uncovered. The film only lasts for so long, depending on how it's stored.
Hmm.
Less and less new material has been uncovered in recent years, and they essentially stopped looking. Um, I think by the time that we got to cable, around that time when he
Wow.
had ESPN or Classic Sports Network, at some point in the 80s or 90s, they stopped that process where they were traveling and looking all the time. They had all the material that they needed. Other people, other collectors privately have continued those searches and come up with material every now and then. But we're just kind of a loose, there's not a million of us around.
Hmm.
But I know several people who are very dedicated, and they occasionally uncover things, mostly more modern films, 1950s, 60s on.
Okay.
TV stations have stuff, archives have stuff. There's a lot that's sort of out there, hidden from plain view,
Hmm.
in archives that have never been indexed. That,
Hmm.
I believe, is how the Harry Greb training footage got found.
All right.
The University of South Carolina, they acquired, I think, the Fox news service, newsreels,
Mm.
going back, I guess, to the 20s. And every archive, a huge part of their job is to go through the material, literally shot by shot, and write down, what is that? Who's in that? I mean, it's painstaking work. Well,
Hmm.
mostly they're young people, especially at the university. They're going to be students. They don't know anything about this. It's full.
Yeah.
These films, these newsreels are full of people that either they've never heard of or just have heard of but never seen.
Hmm.
So they do the best job that they can with resources. But something like the Greb was mislabeled,
Okay.
and a collector a fan came across it and said, I know what that is. And that's how that came to light. I went there myself and went through their catalog.
Oh wow.
And got several DVDs worth of boxing material, and I saw stuff that they had labeled properly. Found stuff of Ernie Schaff and
Wow.
some training footage with Dempsey that they just the archivists they don't know who they are. So but it's you have to search in all kinds of places, and you have to gain access. A lot of these places don't let you come in and just look around. You have to be associated in some way or get permission to do so. And the collectors themselves, when they're not being really squirrely, they actually do talk to each other and exchange good information that's helpful into knowing, what exists and what's not out there.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's pretty amazing there. I'd like to go back to 1927 and tell Dipsy, hey, you know that even though you were this huge, there are going to be some people that don't know who you are here in the future.
It's crazy. Always the way.
Yeah. That's pretty amazing. That process in itself. Wow. So no, I appreciate you sharing that, because I think that there are a lot of misconceptions out there. And there are some accuracies in terms of how some people view it and see the process there of collection and things of that nature. But there are some misconceptions on what's out there. You have a lot of rumors, things of that nature. You have rumors that there's footage locked in vaults that people refuse to release and all of that stuff, Carl. But I know from speaking with you, yes, and then you explaining that task, it's a bit more daunting than people may think. And to even just come across any surviving footage from that time right there is somewhat of a win, I guess you can say.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's always a question. There are rumors of people who may claim to have some material that's extremely rare. In most cases with those people, if you press them and say, well, show me some evidence, they don't want to do that. There was someone a few years ago who, of the many people who claimed a video of Jerry Quarry and Buster Mathis, which is amongst collectors. There's a list of a wish list, and that's one of the ones on a wish list for some of us. And claims that he had a copy of the video. So I sent a note on the chat and said, well, if you have a copy of it, take your camera and take a picture of the screen, just one frame, just a picture of the two of them in the ring together, or even getting ref's instructions. It doesn't matter, just to confirm it. And they won't do that. So that tells me that either they don't really have it and they're just saying so. And I don't, why do that? And fill your inbox with a bunch of nothing, or they think they have it, but they're not entirely sure. And if someone looks at it and suggests that it's something else, then it's going to kind of blow their cover. So it depends on who you are. I mean, if there's really no practical reason, if somebody has some historic footage that's of not just that it's rare, but it's of value to the whole community, it makes no sense just to hold on it and keep it away and go, oh, I have it and you don't. Yes. I mean, that's a pretty sad attitude to have, pretty much about anything. But there's so much good that can happen if someone, some kind of, I mean, I guess the standard bearer of it is Harry Greb footage, Harry Greb in action. And I was talking to a journalist the other day, and he was asking about that. And I said, well, look at it this way. Look at it, instead of a person is not a film collector, they're an art collector. They collect paintings or sculpture. And somewhere in their travels, they come across a lost Rembrandt. And And in the world of boxing, footage of Greb is pretty much the Rembrandt of boxing at this point.
Indeed.
So what sense does it make to sit on it when in fact, if it's true, so much could be given to the community. The person who owns it, who has that material, instantly becomes a legend just by association. They don't have to give it up. They could license it. There's great income to happen just from that alone. They could use the material to enhance their own collections and be trading material that they don't have. Plus, really providing answers to the boxing community, history community, that have been hanging out there for years to see, footage of this person. So it makes absolutely no sense if you really have that. If you're convinced it's really the genuine article, to not share it. And I'm not saying give it away, but to present it so that the community at large can, get some value, benefit from that and that knowledge. The other thing is, if again, maybe you're not completely convinced and there's a fear that someone's going to discredit that. Oh no, that's not who it is. And it kind of blows the whole thing. So it's their decision to make. But for me, something like that is to be shared, just like what I'm doing with this documentary.
Yes.
I acquired it from an archivist. I looked at the material and I could have said, oh, that's interesting. Now I know that the cameras didn't stop. The police didn't stop the cameras. And just said, well, just for myself. But what good is that? And I could tell people and they would go, no, that's not true. Jim Jacobs says different than you. Who are you? So I saw it as an opportunity to present material that hadn't been seen, that a lot of people would be very interested in. Well, actually, I didn't know that. Halfway into producing this, I was sort of asking myself whether anybody would really care, but apparently people do. I mean, they care as much as I do about stuff like that. So I'm happy to share that. And I wanted to present it in a way so that I really tell a story and kind of close the book on at least that chapter in the film. It doesn't mean that we see the whole fight. We just see one part, but we see this one part that bridges a gap of truth, really, about what happened on that morning.
Wow. Yes. No, we appreciate you there, Carl, for actually sharing this. No, that is great. And I think that the boxing world benefits from it. And just looking at the response, it came out on February 23rd. That shows that there is a lot of interest out there historically. And then I think when you tie in the names as well with Jack Johnson, Tommy Burns, if I think about some of the most popular fights, just looking at it from a historical standpoint, that is certainly one that, you'll get your casual fans, they will know of at least the fight or Jack Johnson. Some may know Tommy Burns, some may know a combination of both, but they're generally going to know of Jack Johnson. And I think that's due to a lot of the coverage that has happened. And you sharing this, I think it just more so exemplifies the fact that, hey, history is alive and well. And when you have this sort of groundbreaking type of documentary that you've provided, people will come in earnest, and they really appreciate it there, Carl. So, and just thinking about that, I know you mentioned you were like wondering if individuals would care and things that nature. Like when you came across it and realized it yourself that, okay, this was actually legitimate and this is something that really bridges a gap that has been there. How excited were you just seeing that for the first time?
It was really exciting because, for really since I was a kid, I mean, that image of Tommy Burns pitched over like an airplane,
Yeah.
as I wrote, careening into a nosedive. He looks like he's literally being, launched.
Yes.
And the truth is that he was off balance. So,
Mhm.
and seeing it, the freeze frame of it. So suddenly seeing that moment pass and how quickly he recovered his balance. He didn't fall. He didn't go down, and then turned around and attacked Johnson again. It was like after that onslaught where Johnson was, I believe, trying to knock him out. So that was
Mhm.
pretty amazing. I mean, that exchange, because we're told this is the end of the fight, and it's literally the middle of the fight, and this action is going on. It suggested, it totally expanded the story of the fight and of both these guys.
Yeah, and that was, yeah, that was amazing, and it was super exciting for me as well seeing it, Carl. It was like sort of mind blowing because all of these years, just thinking that footage there, thinking in that footage that was out there at least that Tommy Burns went down. So the imagination is amazing in its sense, and a wild thing. So seeing that he actually did not go down was like mind blowing.
Yeah, it's sort of, the first time I saw it, it was like I always thought, it's almost disturbing. You kind of wonder, what am I looking at? Run it back again, really? And that's it. I wish the quality of it was better, but that's all we have. I mean, I don't know how that footage survived or how it was copied. But it did, and we're lucky to have it.
Oh yeah, yes, amazing thing. Again, folks, here with Carl Weingarten. He's on YouTube at Fight Films Guide. Be sure to check out his channel, and you'll be able to see this actual documentary that is there. His latest video, Jack Johnson versus Tommy Burns from 1908. The lost footage that is associated with it. Real quick here, Carl, I want to shout out those that have come in. Shout out Coconut Stacks. Appreciate you being here. Yeah, my partner there. Random Acoustic Thoughts. He's another who actually does history, does a lot of stuff on Sam Langford and such, who was a subject, or at least he came up in the video. So him among some others. My mom, she even dropped in. So thank you there, Mom, for dropping by. Candy Jacobs, yeah, she has Hogo Boxing, do a lot of things in the community here in this DC area for boxing. So appreciate you dropping in as well. Candy, again, we're here with at Fight Films guy, Carl Weingarten, and he's just uncovering a groundbreaking story that I feel like, hey, it should be out there even more. I want to see some of these even news channels who swoop in at times when something major happens in boxing, covering this there, Carl, because this is an amazing thing that you have put together here. Now, also in that footage, and maybe I missed this somewhere down the line, or I don't recall, but there is an actual knockdown that I recall seeing in the footage that you provided. Was that always out there, or was that a part of this lost footage? Because I was trying to think back, and I don't recall seeing Tommy Burns dropped, or maybe I missed it or something.
No, and this is another mystery about this. That was in the 7th round.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The round where they had done the freeze frame. Later in the round, that same round, that's when Tommy was knocked down briefly there, just before the end of the round. I'd never seen that. Wow. Jacobs and Caton did not include that in their release, and that seems, why not? It made no sense to me. That's a very exciting moment. The only thing I could think of is that the knockdowns happened in specific rounds, and that those are documented.
Okay.
And for whatever reason, they chose not to show it. I don't know why. It seems odd that they would do it. But Ken Burns used that in the documentary, that the knockdown appeared. That's where I first saw it. Okay. And that was a clue to me right away. Wait a minute. If you're seeing something you haven't seen that's significant like that, then you begin asking what else is out there. But that knockdown happened in the 7th round, about 2 minutes in.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the only knockdown that we, as far as I know, of those 4 or 5 rounds that exist. The others happened, I believe, in the 1st round, the 14th, 7, and I think I just forget offhand, 6th
Oh
or
yeah,
the
yeah.
4th round. Yeah.
Okay, okay, yeah. Hey, thanks for sharing that. You know, this is gonna make me look back at it even more because I had seen that Ken Burns documentary, but it has been a number of years since I actually saw it. Sometime this past decade, I know, but yeah, I can't remember exactly when. So, pretty interesting there. It's in there, but that's one that is probably the most popular of the Jack
Right.
Johnson documentaries that is out there, and one that is widely referenced. And I
Right.
thought it was well put together from the presentation, all of that stuff. I actually enjoyed it as I've gone through it. I've heard some historians who feel like there were some things left out or some inaccuracies, misconceptions, things of that nature. That being said, I actually enjoyed the documentary, and even in that, which is sort of like one of the most referenced films on Johnson,
Yeah.
it too kind of went with the theme of this being the end of the fight there, in the footage that was uncovered. So I'd imagine that sort of this is more widespread than what even meets the eye, because I look at what your video, how your video, the reaction to your video and such, but I still think there likely would be a segment out there who still doesn't know this as of yet. Now, I wanted to ask, as far as Ken Burns, have you had any contact with him or anything of that nature? Does he now know, or do you think he knows that, of course, this was what was done with the film that Jim Jacobs has?
Hmm. No, I don't know
Okay.
Ken. He's done some great work. I do. I did recently. I was contacted by Jeffrey Ward, the author of
Okay.
Unforgivable Blackness.
Okay.
He'd seen it and he reached out to me and sent a nice note. And he did comment. He made a comment that about that the film differs. That Ken Burns film in that sequence differs slightly from what I was saying, but we talked and he was very friendly, and it was like
Hmm.
he loves this kind of stuff,
Oh,
unraveling
yeah.
mysteries, and so I didn't. He wasn't involved in making the film. He wrote the
Oh,
script and the book,
okay.
and I haven't talked to. I don't know Mr. Burns, so he made the decision. There, he and his team decided to show what they showed,
Hmm.
and what they showed was what Jacobs and Caton, their version of events. That's what he showed. Um, I don't know. Anyway, he just didn't know.
Yeah.
I mean, this is all kind of new. We all knew up to recently that there was a puzzle to be solved. There was a mystery there, but we didn't know exactly what it was. And that wasn't the primary focus of his
Hmm.
documentary. I mean, it
Right.
was just for him to say exactly the issue at that point in the film was it was Johnson challenging for the title.
Yeah.
He won it by a wide margin, and that's how it ended. And they chose to show it that way, and perhaps that's how they believed it ended. I mean, it's nobody's fault. It's just the way it
Yeah.
worked out. Nobody knew about this other footage because it was kind of tucked away in a collection. So,
Hmm.
um, but no hostile calls or anything like
Okay.
that.
Okay.
No,
Good. Good.
no. Mr. Ward was very friendly. We had fun discussion. He said, "I'm looking forward to the next things that you do." I said, "That's fantastic." I told him I love the Revolutionary War documentary they recently
Okay.
did. I loved that. It was very well done, and so it was cool. I would love to talk to Ken Burns. It would be a blast.
All right. That would. Yeah, I think that would be a very solid discussion. Especially just given how that kind of added to sort of the wide distribution of the documentary and such. And it's heavily referenced. So, and I'll check out that American Revolutionary War doc. I like some of those time frames as well, and some of the stuff that was going on. So, thanks for that nod as well. But good, yeah, no hostile calls. Hey, but I think you put together the story in a way that it's easily digestible. People can understand once they actually just watch your documentary there, Carl. So I wouldn't expect any hostilities because you spell it out. And I think you do a great job of just telling the story and sort of the backdrop behind this fight as a
Yeah.
whole. There, uh, Carl, and I love that that was included because if we think about that time, and I guess considering at least maybe Hugh McIntosh saw the magnitude of such. Jack Johnson, he wasn't widely liked here in the U.S., or at least there was probably a segment of the population that hated him, and then you had a segment that appreciated him and what he was doing there in the sport. But this fight went down in Australia, there, Carl.
Yeah.
So that's compelling as well. And having the forethought to get this on film and what it means for American history. We know what it means for American history, but that being
Yeah.
said, this did go down in Australia, so that's a major marker as well in terms of
Yeah.
what Australia in general has contributed to the sport of boxing.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's huge there. It's always been big there.
Yes.
Yeah. It's one of the reasons that Tommy went to fight. He fought at least twice there before he fought Johnson, because they had their own boxing champions. And
Oh, yeah.
that's why he went overseas, was to fight champions in other countries, because he wanted to unify the title.
Mhm.
The heavyweight championship was, I guess more or less begins with John L. Sullivan
Mhm.
to Jeffries, but they only fought in the U.S. Sullivan, I believe, fought in London once, but it was an exhibition. It wasn't the title wasn't on the title wasn't on the line.
Mhm.
So this was sort of an American idea that we have the world title, but we're not going to fight outside of the United States or fight people from other countries. Nowadays, it seems kind of preposterous, but in those days, that was the thinking. So Burns decided, I really want to unify this title. I want to make it a true world title. So that's why he went overseas beginning in 1907, fighting in England, Ireland, Australia, um, France,
France.
fighting all those champions to in fact, the real title, because he had a publicity challenge. He had an image challenge. He was 5'7", approximately 180 pounds, somewhere in there. And Jeffries, was 6'1", something like that.
Mhm.
So when you see the two of them together, I mean, Jeffries towers over. Jeffries was the hero.
Yeah.
This is like he had the same problem that other champions had, following an iconic champion.
Mhm.
Tony following Dempsey, even though he won it, he wasn't as popular. Ezra Charles after Joe Louis. Ezra Charles really had to struggle to get recognition. We recognize him nowadays, but at that time, not as much. Floyd Patterson after Rocky Marciano, and then the fighters just following Muhammad Ali's retirement. So he had the same challenge. So his goal was, I want credibility. I want respect. So I'm going to go fight everybody overseas, so no one can claim that I'm not the world champion, except for, of course, Jack Johnson. But Jack Johnson was an American, and there was no way any promoter was going to make that fight in this country at that time. It just wasn't going to happen. So part of his thinking was, by going overseas, you go to these other places where there are mixed race fights. It's legal. People go to them. They're popular. They're accepted. That's where you go to make this fight happen. it took a while. It took 2-3 years, and he
Mm-hmm.
wasn't just going to go give his title away. He wanted to make some money, like all champions do,
Mm-hmm.
and enjoy it. And it got to a point where it's like, he had no excuses left, and it's time to, this is going to be his biggest fight, and he asked for the biggest payday, and he got the biggest payday for it. So in many respects, uh, Tommy Burns, got the title and held it as long as he was meant to hold it.
Oh yeah, yes, he did. And that makes it even more compelling there. Just staying on Tommy Burns, because there's no question that Burns, he gets overshadowed in this just because of the magnified light that was on Jack Johnson and has been on Jack Johnson. Of course, him being American, if we look at it from a North American standpoint, of course, Canada is American in that sense. That's one of the things that we hardly bring up, when just discussing these things from an overall standpoint. But that being said, I feel like he is overshadowed, the smallest heavyweight, or at least shortest in history, and probably weighed the less. But he started out. I know he was a middleweight. Certainly the shortest at 5'7" there, and he was the first traveling sort of heavyweight who wanted to take on the other champions. You're right about Sullivan. There were individuals that Sullivan did not fight, even here in America, let alone
Yeah.
going across the
Yeah.
board and abroad to actually fight them. So Tommy Burns, he was truly monumental in sort of getting us to this point, at least where we are now, as far as the heavyweight title being defended. Of course, we know about what happened after Johnson, and then kind of some of the things that went down. But that being said, were it not for Tommy Burns choosing to take that route, it would be interesting to kind of understand where things would have gone, because he was truly willing to do so. That 30,000 that he received for this fight, and I know there was a wealthy individual that helped put up that funding. That was the equivalent of essentially $1 million at that time to the $5,000 for Johnson. So,
Yeah.
when you're talking about major money, it's truly that's truly was major in that particular time. And I'd imagine you would think it might have been a little bit hard pressed for anyone to turn that down at that particular time there. But Tommy Burns, he was a very good fighter. He was tough, and he was willing to go and take on all comers, as you noted there. In your travels, sort of discussion surrounding it and such, do you think that? I just wonder what your sense of is the feel of Tommy Burns. I feel like I know of him. Of course, we know of him, but just sort of community, the historical community, they may know some stuff. But just thinking about the boxing community as a whole, I feel like they don't really know of just what it meant with Tommy Burns being in that position at that particular time. In your travels and say researching this and all of that stuff, do you get the sense that his sort of accolades have been sort of kind of recognized and mentioned more here this period, or is it still one of those things that you feel like there's probably more that can be done to kind of show his sort of status and what he was able to do kind of in elevating us to this situation now where Johnson actually was able to get that title shot?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, after he lost to Johnson, he didn't fight for a couple of years, and then he would fight every few years just on a part-time basis. He was even they were trying to get him matched up with Sam Langford. So he stayed, more or less active for a number of years, but he got into different businesses, promoting fights. He was a manager, had a clothing store. He did what a lot of people do when they have some money, they invest it and they try something different. So there are a number of articles when I was doing the research by or about Burns in the years following. He was still very much on the scene, and even into the 1920s. But I think he was sort of left behind historically for a long time until more recently. I think he's got a little bit more coverage, but he was just in this historically in this spot in history that's very hard to highlight. He wasn't champion for very long. He followed an iconic champion, Jeffries, and was lost the title to yet another iconic champion, Johnson. So his sort of it was easy to dismiss, and because Johnson won so handily, it made him appear to be less able than he really was.
Yes.
And that often happens with even fighters who have a great reputation. If they have a loss that's rather humiliating, their credentials seem to drop, not justifiably, just unfairly drop just because of the one fight where they lose or they were knocked out. Oh, well, since it happened in that fight, it probably could have happened any other time, when the truth is it was just that one night. So he was in a tough spot, and Johnson sucked up all the air for the next 7 years. So he wasn't he wanted to fight Johnson again, believe it or not, but nobody was going to try and make that fight. And the thing that started off, of course, is the newspaper reports. Most famously, Jack London wrote that scathing story about the fight, which was really about London resenting the idea that Johnson won, more so than being unhappy that Burns lost. So his response was to discredit Burns, really in a very cruel way. And since not that many people saw the fight or saw the films, they just took it as gospel and just believed it for what it was. So he had a lot of unfair press for a long time, but he did all right in the end. He was lucky. He still did okay. And now we get to take another look at him and his legacy. And as with all these guys, this has been fun for me. It's it always starts with the film, and then I kind of investigate their stories deeper after that, and you just find out all kinds of stuff that led up to that event, things that were happening, things that impacted on the results. You don't have to make stuff up. The truth is interesting enough.
Oh, yes, most certainly there, Carl. Again, here, folks, we are here with At Fight Films Guy. You've seen the channel. If you haven't, search in your bar there on YouTube. Use your search bar and type At Fight Films Guy. You'll find a number of compelling documentaries as well as historic footage that he himself has collected and released here for the general public to be able to see here on YouTube. And we do appreciate that, Carl, as we've been discussing there. So, yeah, I'd imagine some of the sort of articles and things of that nature did factor in with Tommy Burns, who, mind you, as you noted, was a damn good fighter. And he has the record, the competition to back, if you really dive into his resume and such. A part of that also, Carl, what do you think was kind of the America factor, like U.S. as well, or the U.S. that like America factor in the sense that, and you touch on in there kind of some of the race relations at the time. And you're right, this fight more than likely wouldn't have been made here in the U.S. at that particular time. And then also you mentioned Jeffries, and then we factor in that those two would fight in 1910. By some measures, people actually viewed that as the legitimate fight between the two best heavyweights of the era there.
That's a whole nother aspect to that. There was another, I don't recall Tommy Burns being dismissed or or anyone saying officially that his claim to the title was not legitimate. But you're right. It's sort of like, well, it's not unlike in some ways the first Ali Frazier fight.
Oh yeah.
Ali coming back, he never lost out of the ring. He was stripped by these commissions. There was a whole tournament of contenders. And even though the tournament concluded with Joe Frazier, being the winner of that tournament, it was still decided, well, this is really when the two of them meet. This will really determine who the champion is. So there are people that feel that, Ali was still the champion until March 8th, 71. And at that date that's when Frazier actually won the title. So it's the politics of it has always been screwy. It always has been. It's boxing is a free-for-all business opportunity. And when largely unregulated, and sometimes good stuff happens and sometimes not good stuff happens. So
yeah, very much true there. Very much true. Real
you
quick.
have to think too, how history would have been had Jeffries defended against Johnson in 1905.
Oh, yes.
In 1905, Johnson wasn't the same fighter as the one we saw in 1908. He had some of his best competition in those years in between. He was still under development, and Jeffries was more or less still at the far end of his prime. It would have been a very interesting fight. It would have been a worthy first, number one fight of the century at that time. And it's too bad that it didn't happen. And but we have the history we have.
Yeah, that is true. That is certainly one that got away from us there. Because and on the channel we've had some discussions. I've had some discussion with others about that fight as well. And you kind of get I think it's one of those sort of 50-50 fights. Had it happened in 1905, and most certainly I think that footage would have survived. Just thinking about the big fights, and would have loved to have seen them matched up in, because the sort of remnants of such, or at least Jeffries that we got at that particular time, it doesn't compare to sort of seeing that fight then.
Yeah, and the good film of Jeffries fighting Sharkey, no one's been able to find that, and it's too bad, because 1898, 99,
I think it was,
they did successfully film their 25-round fight, and apparently the still images, the few frames that we're able to see, it looks pretty remarkable. So that's too bad. That would have given us a good view of him in his prime, what he looked like. And unfortunately for him, he decided to come back, and Johnson made him look pretty bad.
That would have been amazing. I know that there's a little thing out there. I think I can remember if it's the first or second Sharkey fight, where they have this little bit of footage, maybe like it's less than a minute, where they say it was filmed in a cigar box.
Yeah, right. Yeah, somebody pirated got a camera into the audience.
Do you know how that would have worked at that time? They're legitimately in a cigar box?
I have to see evidence of a camera that small and what kind of film it had, because the standard film formats of that day were huge.
Yeah.
So that's a story just by itself. What kind of camera would that have been? Was it one someone made? That is a possibility, but one of a kind is what I mean.
Oh yeah.
So we have that, and that's also some footage that I did some playing around with it, with just some tools that I had, just to see if I could stabilize it a little bit. And I had one little portion of it that wasn't shaking, and you really get a little closer look at the action.
Oh wow.
So I'm looking forward to digging more into that.
Maybe the idea for your next documentary right here, Carl.
Well, that's what's exciting right now, is that tools are coming available to do all kinds of restoration for old films, cleaning them up, and in my view, try and bring them back to their original form. because
Oh yeah.
many of those films out of the original can, they look pretty good. Those were
Hmm.
good lenses. The film itself was pretty big frames, so
Okay.
there was a lot of information there. But over time, what we're seeing, mostly what we see, are 3, 4, 5, or 6 generation copies. Some even through videotapes. So most of what you see on YouTube is pretty bad copies, but occasionally, you get to see somebody has a copy near the original within a few generations, and some of them look just absolutely spectacular. I mean, you just see the expressions on the fighters' faces, and you could almost, the breathing, the pace of the fight becomes more real, becomes more
Oh yeah.
present. It's fun. So there's some neat tools coming around. There's some are still in development. Colorization isn't there yet. I mean,
Oh yeah.
some of the stability tools, they come with the cost that you lose a generation, you lose quality once you apply the tools. So, but we're getting there, and in the years ahead, they're going to have some amazing tools coupled with some AI to sort of bring some of these
Yeah.
images either closer to their original form of sharpness and clarity,
Hmm.
or tools that will take the information that's there and recreate the film through AI. So you won't be looking at the film, the
Hmm.
actual film, but you'll be looking at a recreation that is remarkably close to it. And for me, that's not what I think should happen with restoration,
Hmm.
but that's something that's valuable with research, because then
Yeah.
we're going to get a real close look at the fighters and their movements and techniques that we can't see through all the graininess and the scratches. Once you remove that,
Hmm.
then that stuff's going to be a lot easier to see. I mean, I could even see, looking at the Johnson Burns footage that I was working with, and I'm able, because they were laser scanned, I'm able to zoom in
Hmm.
closer into it, so you're not looking from far away, but
Okay.
they're more filling the screen, seeing all kinds of movements that Johnson applied, little shifts in position to evade a punch, um, all kinds of footwork stuff that he did that was just, conveyed, technically how skilled he was. And
Mhm.
it's fun to watch. It's again, it's like you're looking at somebody new all of a sudden.
Okay, yeah, yeah, no, you're right. Since we're here, we can dive into this real quick for a little bit. But because I had a couple of things in that regard. Now, Gar, yeah, that is amazing. Now you mentioned just the film in itself, and then kind of what things like some integrations. One of the things I wanted to ask in terms of like the film, and as I understand it, there's a sort of fragility to, I guess, film from that time. Is it the case that all of that film is essentially fragile? I heard flammable, that type stuff. Is that the case with all the
Yeah,
films from
the
your period?
the early films were nitrate based,
Okay.
so super flammable. Dynamite. Just um, they had to be carefully stored. The beauty of it is that the emulsion and the image quality was fantastic for the period, but it didn't age well and would start to deteriorate. And then the risk of fire, if it gets near any hot or near a flame or whatever. And warehouses were notorious for fires, accidents.
Mm.
We lost a lot of material because stuff that was stored away safe ended up being destroyed. And then if it's not stored properly, it begins to start to gel and go to waste. So that old stuff either has to have been stored properly, um, or accidentally properly. It was sealed up in some way in a closet somewhere so that it was out of the air and away from extreme temperatures. And we're
Mm.
lucky if we can see it. Um, but time's been running out. I mean, it's just, there's really only so much of a lifespan, and so much material has been lost and thrown out because people didn't know what it was. They didn't value it. So we're lucky what we have, even these little bits. We're lucky to have
Oh
those
yeah.
things, those little pieces can fill in questions that we've had, and allow us to retell the story. And this documentary, like all documentaries, like Ken Burns documentary, like Legendary Champions, and like Jack Johnson Breaking Barriers, or anything I do, it's still a point of view. I try and make sure everything I write into the script, everything that's there, I verified it in some way. I'm referencing a newspaper. You can see it through the film. I'm constantly cutting to a newspaper that says such and such. So it's not hearsay. That's just carrying on mythology. I'm interested in, let's just tell what the story was. What were people saying at the time who were there at the fight, looking at these guys a few feet away from them. I think it's worth listening to them as opposed to some guy who's finishing his latest beer and says, well, I heard this about that. And who are you going to believe,
Right.
But it's all fun. It's all fun. And these stories are great to tell. And even the different perspectives, they enlighten each other. And that's what's fun too. I mean, I just talked to Jeffrey Ward. I'm still, still thrilled. I had a chat with him. Yeah. He didn't agree with me on my perspective on the Johnson Ketchel film. And I'm like, okay, it's like, it's just his point of view. He's not sure, he said. I said, okay, it's like, I'm not going to take it, personally. All I want to do is I'm making my argument. I'm making my, showing the evidence, because I think it's important to at least show the evidence, and you can ignore it if you want to, or maybe it's convincing. I don't know. It's fun for me to do it. It's stuff that I care about, and I'm going to listen to if somebody else has something to say. I want to hear what they have to say too. So it's fun.
Oh yeah. Hey, and in regards to that Johnson Ketchel, I've had some chats with individuals, like in comments, things of that nature. And there are some who aren't convinced that's the case. You got me convinced there, Carl, just doing what you put into it and all of the stuff, and just seeing it broken down in the frames that, in the way that you were able to do so. It certainly has me convinced. Certainly, I would say more on the convinced side than it is that I am on the not convinced, or what I previously had a thought of for that particular fight. So, hey, I think it's great work to have it out there.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the compelling nature of it is much like sort of some of these fights where we have situations where some may have thought this person won versus the other.
Right.
It's like that here when looking back on some of the historical stuff as well. So I wanted to note that for you there for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. All they can do is just show the evidence that I found that convinced me, and it's just my point of view of it. And everybody else can draw their own conclusions.
Yeah, that's true. Carl, real quick, Random Acoustic Thoughts mentions it's easy to forget how close we are to having nothing at all. I'm studying Langford's early career, and I'm barely within the time frame where newspaper photos were a regular thing.
Right. Yeah.
So kind of what you touched on there. We're lucky to have just even these things, given the amount of time that is passed.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, boxing, even when it was very popular, the fights are fleeting. They're headlined one day and then forgotten 5 days later, or the films show up in a week, within a week, they're viewed and then they're gone, and we're on to the next thing. It was that way back then, and there was newspapers. And a few photographers would show up, and maybe there was enough light or whatever. They took some photos and were able to publish those. So we have some grainy newspaper pictures of things. Others have been better preserved, but we only have so much footage to look at, and so we try and glean as much as we can from it. Langford, there's just a handful of films, even incomplete, of him in action. I look forward to these tools improve, where we can take, because we have now preserved those originals. We have them and can then go in and do work in enhancements and get a closer look at the action and the events and stuff that happened.
Oh yes, yes, indeed. Definitely looking forward to that. Shout out to the final boss who dropped in. He said Jeff was a great champion, but it was pathetic how he didn't fight Johnson. Like I said, I think he would have had a great chance of beating Johnson, although Johnson wasn't in his prime until 1908. So yeah, it's definitely one of those, as mentioned, 50-50, kind of maybe slightly lean towards Jeffries in that regard during that time. But thank you there, final boss, for always dropping in. And hey, maybe I'll have to do something on Tommy Burns, as you noted there in the other comment there, just a live discussion talking about him because, yeah, darn good fighter there for sure. And Carl, just thinking about the tools and things, because you noted like some stuff with colorization. Now, I know you have a better understanding of it, but I've seen stuff that is out there where like there are some videos that are colored per se on YouTube. And actually, I even know of a program that is out there that uses some form of artificial intelligence or whatever, and it'll do colorization. But that being said, it's not necessarily of the highest quality because I think about I think about the stuff that the Smithsonian does, like on the World War II stuff, and I take it's probably very expensive. But they also have like a old shot of or old clip of Jack Johnson when he's training. Have you seen that one where the Smithsonian released it, where they colorized it? But it shows them hitting a heavy bag and all of that stuff in training.
They might have gotten that from me, actually.
Oh yeah, they got that for you. Okay.
I know they got some Jack Dempsey stuff from me, Dempsey Tunney stuff. I may have sent them some Jack Johnson. I know that and there was an English company I licensed some Jack Johnson stuff to.
Okay.
So that stuff does float around.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, but they have the highest end equipment to do that kind of color processing.
Mm-hmm.
And if it's done, like I said, if it's done right with the best tools, it's worth looking at. I think the original stuff is beautiful on its own. The black and white is fine. The color adds something, adds some life to it, some presence to it. That's fun to watch, but it doesn't replace the other material. And I guess that's really, what it's down to for me is that, are we talking about replacement by dressing this up? Or are we talking about restoration, which is to bring it back into its original form? And I think you can do both. Okay. It's intriguing to look at this stuff in color, but to me, it just wait till the tools are ready and then really do it right. Otherwise, you're experimenting and it's fine.
Oh yeah. Now thinking about that restoration, because I did have that written down here. When you're going, say you're going through the process of kind of editing some of these films, is what triggers you to say that, like, okay, I think I've done all I can do with this? Is it just the eye from the experience?
You mean in terms of the quality of the picture, or?
Yes, the quality of the overall picture.
Yeah, I mean, I have tools that I use, some software tools that I'll use to do enhancements. The first thing is that whatever my source footage is 16 millimeter, it's a print. I don't know how many generations that is from the original, but considering it's from Big Fights Incorporated, so it's at least a couple of generations away, and they didn't do much in the way of restoration. So they just kind of ran off, cut together the films in the order they wanted and ran them off. They didn't really do much in the way of enhancement. Whether they were interested or maybe they just did not have the equipment, or it was going to be too expensive. I don't know. It was the decision they made. So anyway, we have these prints, and that's much better than videotape or any other medium that we had at the time. So we now there's HD scanning, which I can do personally, and then there's laser scanning, which is another big step up, which I know a company, and so I'll send stuff to them. The real critical stuff I'll send to them, and they'll do laser scan, and they do stuff at 2 and 4K. So they're really lifting off that film when they're scanning it. They're really getting as much detail as is there. I mean, right down to the film grain. And there's only so much that you can get from that. But if you get everything that's all the content in that film, then you can start zooming in and getting closer to the fighters without it just blowing up and getting distorted. That's when you know you have something that's low resolution. You zoom in on it and it just kind of goes to fuzz.
Oh yes, yeah.
In this case, you zoom in and they just get closer. They're not as sharp, but you know, everything is still clear. Everything you still see there. So once I have the high resolution scan, then I have some tools that I can apply some sharpening. I can change the levels and the contrast. I can stabilize the image. That goes a long way, you know, so the picture isn't shaking. Or if the camera was moving, you can stabilize it so it's to stay steady on the subject, even if the camera was moving. All that stuff, those little tweaks can go a long way to helping make an image much clearer and much easier to watch.
Okay.
But I don't go beyond. I don't try and go beyond what tools I have and try and fabricate stuff, or I haven't used AI to process in any of the footage. At some point, I may do that if there's a need to do that, and then I would say, you know, this image was enhanced by AI. Otherwise, everything in the documentaries is really from analog to digital scans and conventional or standard software enhancement techniques that you would use on any photograph or any film or anything like that. And like I said, a little bit can go a long way to clarifying, so you bring viewers closer to the action.
Oh yeah. No, that's amazing there, Carl. Just hearing that process, I think, a lot of people probably don't know or understand that process in itself. So it's good to hear it from someone who's actively involved with it and such. And then also thinking about AI, and we kind of touched on this. I believe we touched on it in our previous discussion, but you know, there are. I imagine it will continue to get better just from all indication. And for instance, I've used programs where you can take a still photo or whatever, and you can have them move around, do all of that stuff. But and then so that makes you wonder and just think about it. And I think we had the discussion in terms of like, what does that mean for these individuals who are 100+ years old? They died a long period ago and such. But that being said, they're being brought to life in a different way with AI. You know, that there's something about that, you know, because they don't have the permission themselves, or the ability themselves to actually say,
right,
okay, that is fine with me, or whatnot. So I do like the fact of what you're doing, where you're showing the actual footage and things that happened as they were. But this AI, and I think we're seeing some of it now, who knows the type of life it can take on and what that truly means for the image of these individuals who would have probably wouldn't have even been thinking of something like this being available, you know?
Well, it's the question is how do you want to use these tools? Do you want to use them in a way that is not positive for the individual? Most of what I've seen are things like on your site, where you had a still and there was an animation created, so the still image was basically brought some lifelike movement, facial movement, to someone who was just sitting looking at the camera. To me, that's perfectly legit. It's fun. You should understand that it's not really them.
Right.
It's an impression of them. And in some ways, it brings us closer to them, to these figures. You want to go beyond that and create whole scenarios where they're doing specific actions that they never lived to do. Then then what is the purpose of that? What is it for? the tools themselves they're not good or bad. It's just how we use them. That's the point.
Yeah. I'd imagine, yeah, that factors in, and yeah, and I think that we're gonna see and get sort of more and more kind of this, more answers, more scenarios, discussion surrounding that. But it's not even going to be associated with individuals from that time as much per se, because we're looking at sort of like modern individuals who are around right now, and how AI is being
Hmm.
used in certain ways and
Yeah.
such. So I think we'll start to get, just more discussion around it and more data to kind of inform kind of where this thing may ultimately head. So,
Yeah, it's still the shiny new toy.
mhm.
And we've been through this with other technology where everybody gets very excited. Some people get threatened by it. Other people are just excited and they overuse it. And then eventually things kind of work themselves out. Um, maybe I'm wrong, but like look at cell phones. When cell phones were really becoming prominent um, in the 2000s, there
Mhm.
was a lot there was a lot of pushback by people talking loudly in public everywhere, driving. You couldn't go anywhere and it seemed like everybody was on the phone. It was so annoying. And I think there
Yeah.
was some pushback to that. I don't notice it as much now, or people are just more judicious about it and they only use it when they have to,
Mhm.
because they realize it's not a toy, that it's an actual tool. So sometimes these technologies have a chance to work themselves out with the users. But whenever something is new and comes on the scene, it just gets corrupted almost right away if it's not introduced sort of slowly and gradually over time. And AI has happened very fast, and
Mhm.
these tools have become available very quickly, and in many cases used in very positive ways and very helpful ways. But we can already see where things are spinning out of control unless we get a handle on how they're used and who's using them. And it's with any development, any um, development of technology that happens very quickly. We as a species, we're not good at adjusting quickly to something like that in a good way. We sort of we sort of like make all the mistakes as quickly as we possibly can,
Yeah.
and then eventually things kind of level out.
Yeah. I suppose that'll happen. Speaking of cell phones, I think about when I wasn't around them or anything. Could you imagine if we still had those, where I think they were like in a briefcase, and then you had to hold this part while you're holding the brief?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, yeah, seeing people with that in public, I'm sure it's like, what is going on?
Yeah, if it was still like that, there would be fewer people using them because
Yeah,
that was a good impediment at the time. Fewer people are going to use those because they're too big to carry around. When they
yeah,
started making them really small and portable, then things really changed. And then, of course, with the smartphone, it's a computer and a TV in your hand,
right.
and it's a whole another thing. We're good at making a lot of problems for ourselves, aren't we?
Yes, indeed. Yeah, it's crazy how, yeah, and the technology, it does move in like a crazy fast manner at times, especially with where these phones are now, in terms of what you can do with them. So amazing stuff indeed. So Carl, so shout out to that Technique 539. He asked, did you ever work with ProBox? So that's a boxing promotion that is out there now, ProBox TV.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
I recently got involved with a couple of organizations, the Northern California Veteran Boxing Association.
Oh,
I've been to several of their meetings out here in the Mission District in San Francisco, and I'm helping them curate and index a collection that they inherited from one of their members. Some really
oh
great
yeah.
films, and it's been fun for me to work with them on some of that stuff. Gone to some fights down to some of the Third Street Gym, and there was a club that had a big amateur fight event. Um, I don't know if that organization you mentioned was involved with that, but no, I'm getting now more involved in the Bay Area boxing scene,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's been fun. There's a lot of old timers around like me that some of them were at some historic fights, and I'm looking forward to getting to know them better, maybe doing some interviews. One member, he was at the Marciano Caquel fight here in the city. So I
Oh,
wanted
okay.
to talk to him about that and other people as well. So yeah, it's still, it's a big time sport. It's a big mainstream sport. It is declined
Oh
as
yeah.
compared to the old days, but there still are organizations and clubs and
Mhm.
gyms and communities and people that are still very involved and very faithful to the sport. And yeah, you could still seek out those comrades, and so there's still a lot of value in that.
No, yeah, yeah, certainly, yeah. Here in this DC area, yeah, we have a lot of boxing that takes place. But when I look at things and think back from a historical standpoint, if you look at the Bay Area, like especially talking about the late 1800s, early 1900s, things of that. I mean, that was like a premier fight destination right there. I think about like San Francisco and all that was happening around that particular area, and then just generally even around and outside of the Bay Area, it was just major, and we
Yeah.
saw kind of a shift in things. There's this company out there, Carl. It's called I Visit Boxing. There's an Ed Pereira.
Oh, I've heard of that. Yeah.
Yeah, he's from London. They're trying to do something. I believe it's July 11th in San Francisco. They say
Hmm.
they want to break the record for the most attendees ever at a fight, which I think is going to be pretty tough here as far as where we are now. But hey, I think they're coupling it maybe with some other things. So they're looking to get 130,000 plus people there.
With
That'll be major, if they can pull that off.
Were they talking about having who was it? Usyk
Yes.
and Fury or Joshua or
Yeah, it was Usyk and someone I know that they were talking about, and I know I had to see what the latest is because Usyk is supposed to fight in Egypt apparently
Mhm.
here at some point coming up. But yeah, I was just thinking from a Bay Area perspective that
Yeah,
they were trying to have Usyk there, so that may still be the case or whatnot. But
yeah,
that would be
that'd be
pretty
exact.
interesting.
Yeah, that'd be fantastic. I'll be there.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. And to think, hey, now I'm gonna try to make it out there myself. But yeah, if they get 130 plus thousand, that would be insane to see right there. As far as the fight crowd's concerned. Uh, but no, good stuff there. Again, folks, we're here with Carl Weingarten at Fight Films Guy. If you haven't followed him on YouTube, be sure to go do that right now. So we're looking forward to that. Looking forward to more discussion here with Carl. So, in terms of this documentary here, Carl, just thinking about it, I know we touched on some of the things that went into it and such, but I found it like I said, very compelling. Just the story from an overall standpoint in terms of the lead in, where things ended up, and kind of I feel like this tells like a major story that will continue to be a part of history. As far as, of course, people can take with it what they want. If you had to say like one of the things that you or the thing that you wanted people to get out of it, uh, what would that be there, Carl? Just in looking at all that you put into this, what would be the major thing that you would want people to get out of watching this, who are seeing this for the first time?
Um, just I'm focused on the two men and what brought them together. I'm
Hmm.
not trying to tell the whole wider story of history at that time, but just I'm interested in this film and what it conveys and the history that the times and the events that brought these guys together and telling each of their story. I mean, Johnson's story has been told pretty well in the last
Hmm.
30 something years. Burns has been less so. So I give Burns a fair amount of time of his time until about his his background a bit, as well as Johnson, and really describe the events and how these two men, what they chose to do, how they chose to conduct themselves, their choices, their career choices, how they both of them individually dealt with the business of boxing. Both of them had their own challenges. Johnson, got resistance to have a title fight in the U.S. Burns would probably would have preferred to have a title fight with Johnson here, but that wasn't going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And he was trying to gain credibility for himself in his own career. So eventually, both of them pursued those roads that eventually brought them together. And then, of course, Hugh McIntosh built that stadium and brought the money together so that we could actually have the fight put on. And that was pretty remarkable. And so that's a big part of Australian history as well. So it's a global story about two North Americans, fighting for the title overseas.
Oh yes, that's amazing. I think that is something great that individuals can get out of it. I mean, it's such an amazing documentary, especially being released here at this time, and to think of kind of where we've gone as far as more and more opportunities and things out there that allow for us to kind of research some of these things and kind of see the history is out there. You bringing this to light, I think that is just amazing in itself. So there's an appreciation for you continuing forward to sort of unveil these types of things, because I think there's something about when you uncover these things from historical times that I don't know if you're a person interested in history like I am. I mean, it's one of the most compelling things that one can find here in life. Just looking back on seeing what was happening at that particular period of time, and it's also interesting that some of these same sort of storylines, how some of those are still prevalent here in modern times, even in the sport and all of that stuff. And we talk about the fights that didn't happen, right, and how that's still the case where sometimes we don't get the fight that we want,
Yeah, there's a lot of that.
Yeah, it's just one of those things there for sure. But I think this is a great thing. Real quick, a couple other things there, and for those that are coming in here late or whatever it may be, we're here with that Fight Films guy. Be sure to go follow him, Carl Weingarten. Follow his channel right now. That Johnson versus Tommy Burns documentary is out there. And you'll see that lost footage that is connected there in the film. Just in relation to, you mentioned, I had wrote this down a little bit earlier. You mentioned a reel is 13 minutes. So there's one reel of this fight, right? The Johnson Burns fight.
I believe, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so is there an understanding based on what you researched of whether at some point there were multiple during a time in which like Jim Jacobs may have been around or something of that nature? Were there, or was this as far back as sort of like those that actually are collectors can remember, this was the only thing that was found, period?
Yes, the film just kind of disappeared after, I guess, a few years after the fight, or after Johnson lost to Willard. People, those films were not circulated, and they went underground. The surviving prints disappeared, some of them. Somehow, and all we have really is this testimony from Jacob saying that he got wind of a person or collector in Australia who had one reel, and he went and got it. That's what he says in the interview. Maybe that's what happened. Anyway, just take his word for it. We know that the original film was 4 or 5 reels long.
Okay.
Because we have newspaper reviews of people who went to see the fight in the weeks and months after the bout, they went to the theaters and the newspapers wrote film reviews of them. So we know what those descriptions say. We know more or less how long it was. And it's not uncommon that a bunch of reels would be stored somewhere and some are discarded and get mixed up. It's not obvious what they are. I acquired at one point the Max Baer Primo Canera fight on 35 millimeter, the theatrical print. I got 3 reels of it. 2 of those reels are duplicates. So somebody had 2 copies and he mixed up a reel. So I have the second round on. I don't have all the stuff that led up to and then the first round. So that happens. That's common. I told it was found in a movie theater in a closet. So at some point, well, we're lucky we have that 1 reel. What happened to the others? I mean, who knows? We're talking 70 years, 60 years in between. But we're so fortunate that he found that and went and acquired it and sort of brought it in and saved it.
Okay. Yeah. Very interesting. So you have 2 duplicate reels of Primo Canera and Max Baer.
Yeah.
Okay. Let me get one of those so I can put it back here, hang it up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I only need one of them. So, the other one's available, but it's only, I don't know, 4 or 5 rounds of it. So
yeah, no, it's all good. No, that is good stuff right there. But no, I think that's cool. We kind of touched on that last time as well. Some of the reels that you have, and you have some sitting back behind you, right? So that's generally what they look like.
That's more or less how I'm storing them. Yeah.
Okay. Wow, that is pretty amazing. Just having some of those, and I know you mentioned you have Toonie and Heaney.
Yeah,
they're real. All right. Is that the what is the oldest one that you have?
The oldest one I have on film, probably footage of. I have prints of the Jim Corbett. I have a copy of the Legendary Champions documentary, and that has film of Corbett and Fitzsimmons and all that.
When was that released? Do you recall when that was released? Because I have seen
1968.
68. Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh wow. So you have the full thing from that was on the initial reel. Okay.
Yeah, I have both. Yeah, I have motion picture 16 millimeter print of that documentary.
Oh wow, that's pretty amazing right there. Would that be 1 reel or that multiple reels?
2 big reels.
Okay, 2 big
90-minute documentary. Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That is pretty amazing there. Yeah. True collector there, Carl. So that's some top-notch stuff right there. Now, do you know as far as Big Fights Incorporated, are they still around now? Are they doing anything or
no? It's kind of it's a little bit of a mystery right now because Steve Lott, who was a partner to Caton and Jacobs, he inherited the business, inherited the collection, which was, he didn't sell, but Caton sold it, I believe, to Disney or ESPN.
Okay.
And they retained rights to it, but they no longer have. The collection is now in vaults in those libraries somewhere. And Steve had a boxing Hall of Fame in Las Vegas for a number of years.
Yes.
He died, unfortunately, and I think his business has closed. So it's I don't know. I don't know who owns that material. ESPN, I guess, owns the collection. Okay. And all that material, but as far as Big Fights Incorporated, I don't know if it's officially dissolved or if there's someone who has the name and is not doing, don't really know.
Okay, yeah, just wonder about that. Very interesting. And through your documentary, I had learned, and I didn't know this, that Jim Jacobs was racquetball or something type of
handball.
Handball. Okay, handball. I did have handball written here, but then I was thinking, did they have racket?
Yeah.
Okay, so
he was a handball champion. It was,
That's pretty amazing right there. But he
yeah,
had an interest in boxing history.
he did. And I think he also collected comic books. And
Mm.
like I said, collectors were a squirrely bunch, all different kinds of interests. But the films is the one they made their living with. So once he retired from as a handball, they went on. And of course, that group, they managed Mike Tyson and a number of other fighters as well. So that was part of their business in working
Okay.
with Customato's gym in the Catskills. So they were all part of, that was one big franchise there.
All right. No, that has been very no, this has been very amazing here, Carl. Just yeah, seeing this and then discussing and everything. Let me see. There was one other
Oops.
thing I was gonna ask there.
Oh, I was going to ask you, my computer battery is running low.
Oh, okay.
Can you give me a minute to get to a plug?
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Feel free. Feel free.
Yeah. Okay. Just give me a sec to get in there.
Oh yeah, no problem. No problem at all.
Hopefully I won't, hopefully won't lose you.
Oh no, you're good to go. Still here to mix there, Carl.
I should have known better. But
Maybe I've been talking too long, Carl.
no, this is great. This is great. Of course, all your viewers have signed off and gone to bed by now, but
we still have some lurking around.
Yeah.
Some are still lurking around. Shout out to Tim Wild here, who says Jeffrey was a destroyer in 1905. Johnson could not beat Marvin Hart that year. And it's all about age. Jeffrey's got old. Well, yeah, certainly that was the case. Thank you there, Tim, for dropping by and sharing such. And but yeah, again, folks, thank you for
right.
being here. Those that still remain
we're
here with Carl Weingarten. Yo, appreciate you there, Carl. I was gonna ask you. Oh yeah, and also thanks for that acknowledgement there in the back end of the credits there, Carl. I was just watching the documentary that I saw, and I was like, oh my, no, appreciate it, truly appreciate it. No,
credit where credit is due.
Hey, no, I appreciate you and all that you do, and I appreciate that nod there. Brought a smile to my face for sure when I saw it there with my partner, because she was watching there with me. So that's a funny thing. I was gonna ask you as well, and we talked about it last time. You do things in music. Now, do you? I don't know the full totality of it, but I know that there's old footage and stuff out there for music performances and things of that nature. Is that something? Do you collect films on old music performances and things of that nature as well? But I know you are involved with music yourself as well. But from a historical standpoint, do you collect things surrounding that?
I have a record collection. Mostly it was music that I was interested in making, or people that, when I was growing up. But I like some vintage music. My grandfather was a jazz musician in San Francisco in the teens and 20s, and got a little bit of recording of him. I like all kinds of music, and I collected it. And for years I collected concert tapes, tapes of shows, because I couldn't afford to go to concerts when I was in school and stuff. So bootlegs for any other reason. I would collect these tapes of shows and listen to them. That was as close as I could get. And I wanted, if there was an artist I really liked and I had their album, but I wanted to hear more and couldn't go see them, there was a whole underground network of live tapes that I could send away in the mail and exchange and send a few dollars and get a cassette of this show, etc., or this radio broadcast or something like that. So, yeah, I've been involved in music as well for a very long time, and there's some collection in that area, but boxing has always been there too. So I think that it's fun to have all kinds of interests, because they all eventually come in and feed each other in some way.
Oh yeah. Because they kind of mix in. Even I guess if you look at how boxing, there's a music connection. You just think about that. I mean, it goes hand in hand in some sense there. So that's very compelling and interesting as well there, Carl. And I saw the equipment behind you. It looked like some music related equipment or whatnot. So
Yeah, just a mixer. Yeah.
yeah, mixer. That's what it is. Okay, good stuff right there. No, that is good. I actually made a song on Jack Johnson. Ironically, there, Carl, it's a rap
Yeah.
hip hop song. It's on my channel. I have to
I think
share it with.
I saw part of that the other day. I was checking out your channel, who you've been talking to lately, and I found that. It was pretty cool.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So though that's another piece of it. So hey, music, hey, it helps make the world go round.
Yes, it
For
does.
sure. So no, that's good stuff. But you do, like I mentioned, yeah, what you do for this sport as far as history. I mean, it can't be expressed enough. And
Well, thank you.
hopefully, even with this, and I'll continue to share. I'm going to be sharing shorts of this interview and all of that stuff as well. That even more start to pick this up and understand the magnitude of you putting this together and putting it out there like that, so we can get this coverage out even further, because this is truly a magnificent thing here, Carl, and you taking the time putting that together and all of that stuff. So I know that I'd imagine all those watching at whatever point will be looking forward to what you have
Thank
coming
you.
next there, Carl.
Thank you.
Um, Not that anything has to be revealed or anything, but we're gonna be looking forward to what you have next,
Thanks.
Carl. So yeah, I'll keep a lookout for things as well, because yeah, what you put together is amazing, well done, and it's of the highest quality that I can see that is out there. So
Oh, thanks.
that's been amazing. And then of course you taking the time to come on here, us having this
Yeah,
chat, that
my
is appreciated.
pleasure.
That is appreciated, Carl. No, I thank you immensely. And again, folks, it's at Fight Films Guy on YouTube. So if you go there, put it in the search bar, you will find him at Fight Films Guy. And he has a lot of great stuff, a lot of great content that is floating out there. So,
Thank you.
man, I truly appreciate it. Appreciate it, Carl. You taking the time, spend essentially almost 2 hours here
Wow.
with having this discussion. Hey, and
Who
it's
knows where
hey,
the time goes?
right, right. Hey, it's nighttime here, so something about California and still having daylight, that's pretty compelling right there as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I am kind of glad to be back to the
Yes,
spring sun clock and get some sun again.
yes, 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 and yeah, it has been refreshing, so that's a good thing. But hey, hopefully we can do this again at some point, Carl. So I'll be
Yes.
looking forward to your next one. So I'm sure we'll be in touch.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you so much, Joshua. So much appreciated.
Thank you as well, Carl. And thank you to all who joined in and spent
Yes.
this time with us. We appreciate you. Be sure to go check out his channel and make sure you go leave a comment under that video. Give us your thoughts and everything. So appreciate everyone.